Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Well, it's afternoon where I am. Anyway, if you are looking for revolutionizing e-learning, harnessing the power of AI, you are in the right place. We'll be getting started with the webinar in just a few minutes. Want to give folks time to make their way in. As you're making your way in, find that chat window. Let us know where you're joining us from today. I am down in the lower right-hand corner of the United States in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where it is sort of sunny, kind of cloudy today. We're actually getting our version of fall, which isn't much fall at all. So, Paris, France, Portugal, New York, Orlando, Alabama. We got folks from all over the place. I saw Wilmington, India, Canada, Western Massachusetts. Nice. All right. Well, we are at the top of the hour, and it looks like it's slowed down a little bit who's joining us. So keep letting us know where you're from. We've got Nairobi on the board as well in Belgium. I love this. It's my favorite part of the webinar when we can pull in folks from all over the place. Well, welcome. This is Revolutionizing e-learning, harnessing the power of AI. My name is Matt Pittman, Principal Analyst with Brandon Hall Group, and it's my pleasure and privilege to be your host this afternoon. I'm joined today by John Blackmon, who is the Chief Technology Officer and Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer for ELB Learning. So we are grateful to ELB for sponsoring today's webinar. ELB Learning offers the most comprehensive suite of products and services worldwide to ensure businesses distribute more immersive and impactful learning. As a market leader, ELB Learning creates and delivers turnkey and custom learning solutions, including e-learning, gamification, virtual reality, video practice and coaching, staff augmentation, and courseware. Today, 80% of Fortune 100 companies trust ELB Learning to elevate their corporate learning experiences. I encourage you to check them out at elblearning.com. If you're new to Brandon Hall Group and aren't familiar with the work that we do, we work with organizations to help you work with your people better. There are a variety of ways that we do that, including individual and enterprise memberships for organizations, our preferred provider program, and our very well-known Excellence Award program in both human capital management practice and in technology. So you can learn more about all of those things at our website at brandonhall.com. The heart of everything that we do at Brandon Hall Group is our research agenda, and we do have several surveys open at any given time, including one that opened just this week, which is our leadership development practices survey. So if you go to our website and click on open surveys, you'll find links to all of those surveys. We do want to engage and interact with you as much as possible throughout our webinar today. We will be holding a Q&A session towards the end of our time together. So you can use that Q&A panel within your Zoom window to submit questions that we will address during that Q&A time. Throughout the session, feel free to engage in the conversation through the chat window, and we'll look to deepen the conversation in that way. And with that, we will go ahead and get started on today's topic. And so I'm glad to welcome John to the session this afternoon. How's it going, John?
Going very well.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here. As a reminder, too, as at the close of our session today, within a couple of hours, you will get a follow-up email that will include a link to the recording of the session today, as well as a copy of the slide deck for handout. So as we jump into this whole conversation, John, you and I have been talking a lot about AI is the hot topic these days, no matter where we go. So we want to jump in. We wanted to jump in and sort of talk a little bit about where are we in the learning profession as learning professionals in relationship to AI, and then the goal really is to talk about where we go. Where do we go from here? So let's just jump right into that. We asked you to answer a few questions for us at the time of registration. So if you look on this slide, we asked you, are you currently using generative AI for e-learning development in your practice? And so split about halfway. So about 45% are saying yes, we are using Gen AI for some e-learning development. About 55% are saying no. And that's from our registrants for today's session. On the left-hand side of this slide is polling data from a survey that we did early on in the year, asking about specifically chatbot technology and ChatGPT in the early days of talking about generative AI and learning this year. And what this really demonstrates is just how much it's shifted over the course of just about 8 months. Whereas back in the February, March timeframe, people had used ChatGPT, but we didn't necessarily put it in the context of work and learning. And now we see that we're split about halfway, those that are using generative AI and e-learning. How does that resonate, John, with what you're seeing?
It very much does. I think if you had asked that exact same question back in that time frame, you would have had maybe 1% that had used it in their. It has grown by that much, and less than half maybe doesn't seem like a lot, but that's almost half the people whose jobs have changed because of AI, right? The process that they use has changed. It is a huge difference, and I would love to do this exact same poll with the exact same question a year from now, and it'll probably be 95%.
Right. Right. The next thing we talked about were the different types of generative AI technologies that you might be familiar with. So when you look at this chart, there's a long list here, but on the far right are the responses that came from that same pulse survey. 80% knew what GPT-3 is, which was at the time the version of ChatGPT that was available. And then it goes down from there. And then we added in some very specific technologies that have, I guess you would call it applicability, John, to the e-learning world and the work of the learning development professional. And you can see on the poll that awareness, it still sits high with the ChatGPT, and then Bard is the next closest one, and it just kind of falls off from there.
Well, and because those top ones are all free, that might have something to do with it. So,
oh, for sure.
Yeah, Writer and Perplexity, Writer's excellent, but to get in and actually use it, you will be paying for it. Now, it's something fantastic to use if you're doing development, but it is not a free option.
Right. Right. Well, then we repeated a question from the survey, and you'll see here the orange data is from the survey and the blue data is from our registration poll, which is, what are the perceptions of chatbot technology for the future? And this is really looking at those generative AI response mechanisms, I guess you would call it. So interesting to look at how we felt about it back in the beginning, where the use of chatbots is unavoidable. Demand for increased usage will grow with employees. It's an important element. Still, I was a little surprised by these numbers. I think they're a little bit lower than I would have expected from the registration list today. John, what's your take on that?
So this is the first time I've seen these numbers too, and I'm extremely surprised, especially with the demand for usage will grow only at 6%. I'm still reading that one over and trying to understand it. It definitely will. Once you start using it as a tool, and I'll show some cases where it's been used as a tool and how you can use it. It's not, anyway, well, I don't want to give the presentation yet, but
We're going
absolutely.
to talk
I think,
about all of those things. And
yeah.
so we talk about kind of sort of the general awareness and kind of how we're feeling about the technology in general. And then let's talk a little bit about just some applicability. What are the use cases that folks are seeing for this type of technology? Now, this data here is from the survey, and I just call out real quick. We've seen all along that there was the potential for it to help accelerate the training content development and enhancing and scaling training activities by leveraging the capabilities of AI. And then also, what role does that technology play within the organization? Providing initial answers to common questions, assisting human interactions, or less than 2% or less is really into fully automated no human interaction. And a full third of people who responded to this back in the beginning part of the year had no idea what their use case would be in their organization. That seems about right to me.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. And then these last couple of slides that I'm going to click through here really quickly, we really included here to show just how far the conversation has progressed. Because when we started talking about what are the skills that the business will need, what are the skills that learning and development will need to succeed in the future, as you'll see on these lists as I bring them up, talking about the role of artificial intelligence, the ways to use AI tools, the skills needed, the knowledge, the understanding to use isn't even on the radar screen. Data and analytics, sure. Performance consulting, sure. Information technology, I guess that's a little bit broad. You could maybe say AI might have shown up in there, but we didn't call it out because it just wasn't the topic at hand even 8 short months ago. So I'm curious, John, how do we embrace the fact that this is happening now and it's happening quickly? Where does it fit in the world of learning and development, professional behavior, and professional success?
Well, I think the first thing is to recognize that we're really at an inflection point in learning and development. I mean, this is the hockey stick. We are just at the bottom of the hockey stick right now. I think the same sort of thing may have happened in mobile learning when mobile became a thing and suddenly everyone had a smartphone. It kind of really changed the way we learn. You expected mobile requirements. Everything had to change. We all had to change, how we do things, how we look at things. How is this going to look in a mobile device? Well, now we have with AI, very different type of thing, but that same inflection where everything you have to do, you have to look at, hey, I have a new tool I can use to really help me create this, or I have a tool I can use within the content itself. So we're just at a very big changing point, and we have to recognize that we're there and realize that we need to step up our game and move into something new.
Right. And that is where you come in. I'm looking forward to hearing how we do that. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you take it from here.
All righty. I will share screen, and I will share screen 3. There we go. And I need to make sure I share sound, because that's share sound and bring up the chat. There we go. All right. Okay. So, hey, thank you very much, Matt. And I'm coming to you from Boca Raton, Florida, just a little bit north of Matt. So it's a South Florida thing today. And so first, we're going to talk about, what is AI? I mean, this is something that you cannot walk down the street without hearing. I brought this up before. This is a true story. Halloween just a few days ago. And there were 2 kids. They could not have been more than 11 years old, 2 boys. And they were talking about AI while they were getting candy. They did not say trick or treat. They were talking to each other about AI and holding out their bags. This is the point we're at, right? I mean, you hear about AI everywhere you go, right? If you look at AI in the movies, right, you have things like Ex Machina or iRobot, where the AI kills everyone. That would be bad, right? We're hoping that's not exactly what AI is, right? So what is AI? What is it really? So AI's definition, it's the field of computer science dedicated to creating software or machines that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, right? So that's a lot. That's a big, big, broad area, right? So it covers a lot of things, right? Visual perception, recognizing objects. Normally that's something we attribute to humans, right? Uh, recognizing pictures, videos, speech recognition is AI. That's one that's been around for a while, but has really been improved with AI. Decision-making, language translation, generating new and unique content is also AI, and that's the one that we're all hearing about lately. So AI is a very broad term that covers a lot of things, but it's generally things that represent human intelligence. So AI seems like it's brand new because we weren't talking about this last year at this time, and we're talking about it all day now. But AI has actually been around for a long time. It really, what we now know as AI was kicked off in 1956 at there's a conference at Dartmouth College, and it ran for about 8 weeks, and it really set the foundations for what we know about as AI now. There's been research in AI for decades. It's been going on, but the speed of the hardware and the algorithms we use has really only caught up to those needs recently. And now we've got to this point, and it's happening very quickly. We're using AI to build more AI at this point. We've seen AI all around us for a while now, and we've kind of taken it for granted and didn't really think about it. So Alexa and Google can answer every query we have just by asking. That's the voice recognition where they're translating our speech to text. What they've actually responded to us is a series of prompts very similar. They weren't using AI previously. They are now. Netflix, it always knows how to hook us on the next show. It always does. And that's because it's using AI in the background. And it's been using it for a while to really understand our patterns, what we're watching, if we've ranked something, and it puts it in, knows what we'll like if we do it. Our phone unlocks just by looking at it. That's AI, that's facial recognition. And I can have whatever image I want in my background in Zoom. I can put this up, I can put another image up, and it recognizes the outline of my body as I'm talking, even as my hands and my fingers go, it knows that. And because AI can recognize that within the image. Social media keeps us glued to our phones at all times because they have been using AI for years to keep us glued to our phones at all times, unfortunately. So generative AI is the new AI that we're all talking about. When we talk about ChatGPT, Bard, Claude, all these things, that's generative AI. That's creating new content. So how does that AI work? It starts by forming a database. So they need a neural network. And so they take a neural network and they feed it with data, lots and lots of data. And these days, that data is all on the internet. And that causes a bit of issues for some people in that they are using some proprietary things that are on the internet, but we're not going to get into that. That's a whole nother presentation. But that entire, searching the internet gives it its entire base that it's working on. They say that ChatGPT actually has almost 20% of the entire internet in it for its baseline learning, which is just amazing. That forms a neural network known as a large language model, LLM. You'll see that all the time. That is just a form of neural network. It's the type of neural network that's in there. A user then just inputs a prompt. So the user inputs a prompt with a description or sample of the desired content or what they want to see. And then that feeds into the AI. The AI actually vectorizes that and goes in and compares it to the vector database in the background of that large language model, and then generates content. It actually generates it word by word based upon the previous words that it has output as its response and gives you its response. So that in effect, that is generative AI. So what can you use AI for in e-learning? So about 1 million things, but you can generally do things like speeding up summarizing text, right? So you may have something that's just, it's too wordy, or you've only come up with a little bit and you need to either expand or shrink it. You can use AI for that. It does a great job of that, as a matter of fact. Starting out writing pieces. So blank page syndrome is something that severely affects me. And I'm sure it affects everyone else as well. Getting started, just getting that kick. Once I have something started, I can usually, start rolling with it and running with it. But I need to get something going. And so I usually start with a question. I'll have AI push that off on me. I'll have AI start working on it. I get a piece, and then I can start expanding on it. And then I can have AI help me expand on it, but I'm always working with it to try to work on it. Appropriate writing style, very, very important. So if you're writing something and you generally write for adults in, a corporate environment, but the next thing, suddenly you have to repurpose something for a different environment. Maybe you're repurposing for high school age children or, lower grade children. You can have AI help you on that. You can actually put in the content and have it change the writing style for that specific group. You can have it, different groups in adults. Maybe you're going to write something for engineers and you're going to write something for your salespeople. Trust me, those need to be different. You're not going to keep an engineer's attention with the same thing you do for a salesperson. So those are different writing styles. You need to maybe have AI help you do that. Generating questions is another very important one. As someone who has had to, teach content and then put out a test, you want to make sure that test is based upon the content that you actually taught during the session. And so you can actually have AI generate those questions and generate the distractors and correct answers for it based upon the content that you put in. That is a fantastic use for that. There are actually several sites that do exactly that, but you can also use your standard AIs to do it. Creating photos from text. One of the problems you always have is, getting images for what you want to show. A lot of times, if you're just going to the net and doing a Google search on images, those images are copyrighted. You really should not be using those. Really, you should not be using those. So how do you get something that won't be copyrighted? Hey, have AI create it for you, right? It's a brand new, unique image. If you type in the same text again, it'll be another image. So you can try it out and see what it's like. And we're definitely going to do some of that today. You can have it edit scripts. That's a great one. And that's something we're going to look at today as well. Also creating voiceovers. Voiceover is something that can be done much better now in AI. Previously, voices were always quite robotic. They're really good now. Okay, so what is some AI that we use today? And Matt brought this up before. He showed us a few of these, but I'm going to go ahead and show more. The top three, definitely ChatGPT, Bard, and Claude. ChatGPT had the first mover status, so they're up there big, but you see a lot more Bard and Claude these days. So let's just take a quick look at those. So the first is ChatGPT. You've heard of GPT 3.5 and GPT 4. These are just their models, the LLMs in the background that they are using. So GPT 3.5 was trained on that large language model and built in there. Same models used to train GPT 4. It's used on the same set of data, but it's a better model that works inside of it. The other is Bard, which is Google's entry. Google has actually been working on Bard longer than they've been working on ChatGPT. They just weren't ready to release it in time, but then their hand was forced on them when ChatGPT came out. They had to move on. And then Claude is another one. It's by Anthropic. It's actually very good, and it's a lot less known, which means it probably might respond a little bit faster than the others because there's not as many people using it. Hint, hint. So let's take a prompt and put it in all three and see what it gives us. I'm going to put just a general prompt in here, and I'm going to ask for a brief history of the Eiffel Tower. And note that I am cutting and pasting because I don't want you to watch me type while I'm presenting because I'm a terrible typer. All right, so ChatGPT, and I'm using GPT-4, which is their newest engine. It's actually really good. There is a marked difference between GPT-4 and GPT 3.5. And it's going to give me kind of a bulleted list here. All of the information about the Eiffel Tower starts with design, purpose, construction details. So a nice bulleted list, and then talks about it today. So pretty interesting. How does Bard answer that exact same thing? So let's compare. It's always interesting to see because these are different every time. I never know what's going to come up, by the way. They're different every time. So this one gives you like a more of a year-to-year kind of thing, as opposed to just gave you this, each of these details. So he goes, it's key milestones, right? Continues to, so very, very different answer. I'm assuming it's correct. You should definitely fact check some of this, but it looks pretty good. Not bad. How does Claude do it? So let's see how Claude does it. All right, Claude, which I, of course, said was faster. It looks like it's a little bit slower. It's actually usually pretty good. On days when ChatGPT is backed up, I go to Claude usually. So gives me a brief history. Straight up bulleted list this time. Goes through, it's not year by year, but it's just a bulleted list, a little more concise, which may be good, maybe not, but different answers. But you see the same question, 3 different AIs, very different answers. Same AI, same question, also a different answer. It's going to give you something a little different each time. It's generating it as it goes. So just always interesting to see. So the other thing, image generation. So image generation is very popular. There's a few things out there. The ones that I generally go to are DALL-E or the Bing image generator. And I know that the Bing, somebody's going to sure put in the comments, the Bing image generator uses DALL-E. That is true, but they use it a little bit different, and we'll see that in here. So if I bring it up, we go into, we're going to actually first start with DALL-E, and this is where I'm going to open it up. So I'd like someone to give me an idea of what they want to see an image of, and you can get a little crazy, but you could keep it to e-learning if you wanted. So put something in the chat, and let's see if what you'd like to see. So go ahead and type something in the chat if you'd like to see what you wanted to see these two generate and how they'll generate it differently. So a cat riding a unicorn, a labradoodle holding a duck. Oh, ChatGPT. I'll put that up while we're waiting for these. Yes, it's the ChatGPT is at chat.openai.com. All right, so communication cycle for college students using dogs. I don't know what that is. Rat Hero. Abbott and Costello. That's an interesting one. I would know. See, now that's interesting. I've never. All right, let's try that one first. We're going to go for Abbott and Costello. A monkey that looks like Harry Potter sitting on the moon. We might try that next. That's pretty interesting. All right, so let's see what it knows about Abbott and Costello. So there are some really interesting ones. I like the creativity in this group. This is good. This is fun. All right, so image generation takes a little while, and yeah, not Abbott and Costello. Those are copyright, so it's not giving us those. It won't give us that. And let's see how Bing does with Abbott and Costello. Oh, they've updated their terms. All right. And now we're creating. Oh, no, I can't. All right. I've submitted lots of prompts recently. Apparently I have. So we'll go in. So let's go for a human and a robot shaking hands then. So yes, Bing image is going to shut me down. I actually have a paid account here, so they're going to let me through. So we're going to do a human and a robot shaking hands. All right, that's pretty good. Although this robot had some fingers in it. But yeah, so pretty cool. Human or robot, I would probably go with that one, or you can have it regenerate, or you can add some things in. So there are some really interesting things up here. All right, one last one, because I have to. We're going to go for a monkey that looks like Harry Potter sitting on the moon. I think that seems important.
And it is Halloween week after all.
Yeah, it's the Halloween spirit. Absolutely. I had a Harry Potter themed decoration in my house this year, so we're going to go. Okay. All right. It's got the glasses. The round glasses are here, though. We all know that Harry has round glasses sitting on the moon. So, all right. So you'll see it generates images. It does generate them all in square format. You can actually, there are some tools that'll take those and widen them out. There are things you can do, but in general, you'll get this kind of image. You can download the image and feel free to use it wherever you want to use it. Okay, next we're going to talk about portrait generation. So you'll see, if you noticed before I came on, I had my portrait in there as a picture. It was obviously kind of an unusual picture, very blue. It's this picture here. I use it all the time as my avatar in many different places. That is AI generated. And so you can actually use AI to generate your avatar to make just something more interesting than normally just a picture of you smiling and looking forward. So I actually use something called Vana. There are many, many out there. You don't have to take this one to heart. So, but if you do want to use Vana, you actually upload a few pictures of yourself. I think it's actually 8 pictures of yourself and just slightly different positions and different looks. And then you give it a type of image you want to create. You can have yourself look like a Barbie doll. You can have yourself look like the devil. You can look like a child, or there are many, there are, hundreds and hundreds of these things out there that you can set up styles for and look at. Pulp Manga was one of the ones I had chosen. So once you do that, you get creations, you get looks that come up. So you get a different look. And this was actually the first one that came up on Pulp Manga that I actually used, but there's a lot of different looks. kind of interesting and fun that you can create your own and get something a little different than most people use in their portrait. It's kind of fun. Also free. There is a paid if you go over a certain amount. I do have one word of warning for you, though. If you go through and you choose something that looks cool, but it happens to be a different gender than you are, for instance, pink plastic or cyberpunk, or if you choose one that I choose that was oil painting, that was in the form of a woman, it will draw you as a woman. And you get to find out what you look like in the opposite gender, which is interesting. I just didn't want to look better in the other gender. That's a problem for me, but it's something I just have to deal with. So just a word of warning on that. All right, and the last or second to last one we're going to look at is from 11 Labs AI voice generation. So AI voice generation, there are probably 1,000 sites out there now. So this was one of the earlier ones that was out there. But just to kind of show you, people expect it to be very robotic and things like that. But something like 11 Labs, which is a paid service, you can actually go through and create. So I'm just going to use this one. I'll use the default, which is Glinda. And
there are many AI text-to-speech options available today. This is just one example that has a free trial.
So very good at emoting, the spacing, the pacing, just amazing. And I mean, you have a lot of voices, right? I mean, just a ridiculous. Ooh, I'm going to choose someone named Harry just because I don't know. Let's just see.
There are many AI text-to-speech options available today. This is just one example that has a free trial.
He sounds like he's in a hurry. I don't know. But the idea is you just have so many of these available. Generate, download, put it in, get very professional sounding things. Just a fantastic way to go. And the last one example that's easy to use one I'm going to talk about is Office 365 and Google Docs. I'll be using Google Docs, but they both have AI features built into them now. And in this, you start with a blank document. Now, when you start with a blank document, you get these meeting notes, email draft, more. You get a lot of options you can put in, but I can just say, hey, help me write. So I'm in here and I am going to start up a paragraph on something to write information. Again, I'm going to open this up. What do you guys want to see? I'm going to start up on a document. I have a blank page sitting in front of me. Go ahead and type in there and we scroll to the bottom. Harry sounds like he's a hero about to save the day. I think Harry was. So employee review. Ooh, if we're doing that, you have to say if it's a bad or a good review. Sabbatical ideas, the difference between Canada and the USA. A great review. Okay. A proposal. Wait. Done. Proposal for how to solve world hunger? Yes. There we go. We need that. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, no. Yeah, I didn't think so. I can't do that one either. That would be nice. All right. So let's go for an employee review. Great employee. Oh, no, hold on. Employee review for a great employee. All right, let's see what we get here. Proposal for a 3-day workshop on climate security. That's really good. All right. You guys had all those crazy questions on the other side when we were going to go, when we were creating images. Now they're all real. Okay. So employee name, highly skilled, experienced professional with a deep understanding. And if we had gotten farther in and said, what the job was, what the business line was, things like that, it would have gotten even farther. But it lets me put this in. I can refine it. Let's say I want to insert it, but I want to expand on that. And so I can, like, if I pick something, I can actually go in, I can set a tone, formal or casual. I can summarize, I can shorten, or I can rephrase. So maybe I don't like how this goes. Maybe I rephrase. I can have it rephrase that and I'll go in and change it. So I can have it edit my paragraphs and work on it. And then there we go. Pleasure to work with, insert, and there I go. So you can really work on your documents now, trying to get good. Sorry. So with Google Docs using AI, it is currently still in beta. So not everyone gets it. I'm a complete geek of all geeks. So they got me in early on it. It may or may not be in your Google Docs. I do not know. But it'll be out soon. In my corporate Google Docs, it's not in there yet. This is my personal Google Docs. Okay. All right, so we talked about skills that are going to be needed, and no one put anything in AI up there. The skill that is needed for AI is effective prompt generation, knowing how to talk to AI. This is, we've all learned how to talk to Alexa. We've all learned how to talk to Google. Now we need to learn how to talk to AI. So there's a lot to prompt generation. So the first one is to understand your audience. And this goes back to before, who you're going to be talking to, not the audience of the AI, the audience of who you're talking to. Make sure you have AI craft that response for that audience, because it will definitely respond very differently. So you tell it who you're talking to when you're going, who you want it to talk to when it talks back. Very, very important. The other one is to keep it simple. Don't get too wordy with things. Don't add in a huge amount of things. Many times when we want to really, really explain something, we contradict ourselves within the same thing. Or we create something that can be interpreted in two different ways. And trust me, when AI gets on the wrong path, it goes all the way down the wrong path. So you want to keep it simple. You want to keep it very, very easy. And what seems like it's very different than that, but it is the same, is be specific. Concise, specific. Don't add a lot of flavorful words in there. AI doesn't need flavorful words. The other one is to iterate and experiment. So as with anything, you learn by doing. If you don't get the right answer, ask it again. Keep going through and asking and iterate. The more you use it, the better you'll get. You'll find your responses are great. If you go in, just use it once and get a bad result, or don't get a very interesting result, don't just give up on it. Trust me, you'll get what you want out of it. It is the way to go. The other thing you can do is, if you iterate, if you get through one of those sessions where you've asked the same question in 10 different ways and finally got the response you want, and remembering that it's conversational, so you don't have to completely retype the entire question. It's a conversation you're having with it. Each time you say something, you can refer to what you said before, and it knows about that. When you get to the end and get the answer you want, you can ask AI, hey, what should I have prompted to get this response first? And it will tell you. That it's a great way to end any session with AI. When you finally get the answer you like, say, what should I have prompted to get that answer first? And AI will tell you. All right, so effective prompt generation, very important. So here we have some examples of prompts, the idea, since really it's the most important thing. And we're going to look at these in actual AIs to see how AI would have responded to these prompts. So the first one, bad prompt, right? Write a story. Why is it bad? Well, it's definitely not specific, right? It doesn't give you very much information at all. And who knows what this thing is going to write a story about. So if I just go in and I tell AI to write a story, Lord knows what we're going to get. So it gave me some tranquil heart of an ancient forest, village, a young girl named Alara, curious nature. So you get a story, right? But so we should actually know what kind of story we want, right? So in this case, I want a short story set in a small town where a stranger comes in, which looks like a pretty good prompt. And I've now set the baseline for my story. So how is AI going to react to that? And we'll just keep switching AIs as we're going here, because we can. All right, so how does Bard handle that? So Bard throws me onto a town, and now it gives me the story I want. All right, it talks about the story I want, and he finally found a place where he belonged. The children liked him. Everything was good. But what if I wanted to go a little bit farther and get more detail? Well, what do I need? I need to tell it the audience. It's actually a 10th grade level reader. I need to tell it that, right? I give it the name of the stranger so that the name is built in there. And then there have to be some funny incidents. So I want funny incidents in there. So let's see how it does on that. And we'll have Claude do this one. All right. So it sets it up for 10th grade level readers. It gave it a title, which is nice, Creekville. And I'll get a full story and it'll match exactly what I'm looking for. So the idea of that prompt going in, what you can do with it. So It's amazing what it can come up with on some of these stories. I mean, if you're tasked with creating something like this, and it does the same for conversational back and forth kind of scenarios, it's fantastic for that. So, all right, one more we're going to look up, and this is a bit more similar to what we do, is how do I write an email to set up a meeting with a coworker? Great. But it's really not very specific, right? So what is a better prompt there? You say you need to set up your meeting with your coworker, Jane, give it the name, to discuss an upcoming project. That's what the meeting is going to be about. You ask when you tell it when she's available. What's the best way to write an email to request a meeting? And if we want to go in, if we want to go in all the way, we say, I'm writing to request a meeting with my coworker, Jane, to discuss the upcoming project. Project is due on March 15th. It's great because the project will always have a due date. And I'd like to meet with her to brainstorm ideas and make sure we're on the same page. Then you give some of the same information, but you want to make sure it takes into account, it's very key that it takes into account the project deadline and availability. So let's go ahead and just do this one. And we'll throw it over to ChatGPT. All right, so professional and courteous, ready to go, gives you the subject, gives you the line, throws out some available dates, even so, and it says, make sure to it tells you, don't forget to replace the placeholders. Yeah, you won't look very good if you put the insert date times in there, but you could have told it these times and it would have automatically put those in there as well. So that's a lot better than the emails I send out, by the way. So it's doing a good job. All right. So let's look at some case studies real quickly. So responding to, the first one is responding to upset customers. So both of these case studies are actually from the same person. They're a ID, instructional designer at a fitness studio, and they both actually happened. So this ID was at they were tasked with creating a role play, illustrating the company policies on handling upset members. Their company policy, which is one of the standard policies, is HEART, right? Hear them out, empathize, apologize, resolve, and take action, right? So, of course, the first thing that happens, blank page syndrome, right? Oh, wow, I have to write this thing in. This user knew about AI and went in and said, okay, great. What I need to do is come up with a good prompt. And this is the prompt they actually used to create their discussion. They said, write a script between a sales associate named Max and a member named Aaron. Aaron has been an elite member for 6 months. Aaron is highly motivated and has made significant progress in their fitness goals. For Tuesday morning, 6:15 a.m. class, you see that Aaron is late canceled. After class starts and 5 minutes have passed, you charge a late cancel fee to her account. The following week, Aaron talks with you and is upset with the charge. The sales associate uses the HEART model in response to the situation. Then it explains what the HEART model is, just in case it did not know. So if we take that, and I'm definitely not going to type all that, and we put that into an AI, and we'll go with Bard for this one. All right, so let's send that to Bard. And I'm always amazed at how well it can do with these things. So you get your scene, you get your characters, and between Aaron and Max, now this is something that we as instructional designers have to do all the time. We create role plays, we go through. It's a lot of work. As long as you explain what it wants to do, and this may not be perfect, but it will definitely get you along your way, right? So it'll be the way to get started on things. You can get a role play, throw it out, analysis, we can get it done. So in this case, maybe I want to add a little bit more to this, and I'll say, okay, it knows about what I just said, but it says, for this example, label each response with the corresponding HEART steps. So maybe that was something I was supposed to do that I didn't actually ask it in the first time. And it says, sure. So it goes in and it shows you each one. So there's your hear, empathize, resolve, apologize, and take action. So we can label those, right? And if I had to do more, I could add that in as well. So I could label each one response and see where each of those was taken in. You can then use the same thing to create questions about it. Maybe you'll have a quiz at the end, something like that. There's just no limit to what you can do with this kind of thing. Okay, our next one is to make a better story. That same instructional designer. She was tasked with coming up with a way to promote their lead management system, Greenbook, to their franchisees. So the franchisees were not really using it as much as they should. And they had promotional materials, but they were dry. They were just PDFs and sheets. They really weren't catching the attention. So this is a very creative instructional designer. So she went through and decided to use let me go back. She decided to use this advertisement. So if you haven't seen this advertisement before, you may be wondering why there's a man sitting on a horse with a bottle of Old Spice in his hand. This was a series of Old Spice commercials back quite a while ago, which were just very quirky and extremely funny, completely off the wall. And they got very viral and they catched on. Even people today know about these videos on YouTube and they use them to make memes and all kinds of things. And so this was something that resonated with this instructional designer. She says, you know what, I'm going to come up with something based upon that. But imagine having to, sitting in front of that blank page and trying to come up with how to advertise our product using that commercial. So in case you haven't seen that commercial, I'm going to show it to you. It's very quick. Here's one of them. This is the one that we're going to base it on.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're on a boat with the man your man could smell like. What's in your hand? Back at me. I have it. It's an oyster with 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamond. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on a horse.
Okay, definitely quirky, definitely weird. So that is what we're going to base this on. So, all right, so how do we do it? So we're going to put in some text, and that text is going to be this rewrite the script for lead management system green book being the best for getting leads. And then it actually puts in the script. So this is just literally the text from that video. And so let's do it. So we're going to put that in and see how well it does. So I've never typed this into Claude before. This is going to be interesting. So let's see how Claude does with that. Okay. And it does. It's amazing. I've done this on both Bard and ChatGPT before. I've not done it on Claude. But hello, sales teams. Take a look at your leads list. Now back to me. Now back to your leads. Now back to me. Sadly, your leads list is lackluster. But if you stop using basic CRMs and switch to Greenbook, you can get leads like me. Look down, back up. Where are you? You're at your desk with the CRM. Your CRM could be. What's on your screen? Back to me. I have it. It's overflowing with fresh, qualified leads. Anything's possible when you use Greenbook as your lead management system and not an outdated CRM. I'm a sales expert. It's actually pretty good. And in this case, they actually sent it out. They created an animation with accompanying music, and they sent it out with following very similar thing on here. And at the end, they said, I'm on a treadmill because it's a fitness company. So just interesting what you can do. You can be very, very creative with this. You have to have a lot of the creativity, but you can let the AI do the legwork in there. It's not replacing you. It's helping you create better content, more interesting content. Okay, lastly, I'm going to talk about AI in the studio, the ELB studio. So there's a lot of things you can do with AI in the studio from ELB. And I'm going to show those to you, just a few of them here. So we're going to go over to the studio. Here we have the studio, lots of things. The first one we're going to look at is Scenario VR. So Scenario VR is a VR authoring tool, and you can go in and create scenes with AI. So normally you would have to use a camera and film a scene. You get a full 360 scene, and then you're operating within a scene. You can actually also create scenarios using AI. So we can put in and get a 360 scene using a lot of different types of scenes. So it gives you a huge amount of things you can do in here. We're going to stick with realism. However, I am once again going to ask you what you want to see for that 360 scene. Now we're going to be generating a full 360 image, not a video, but an image of that scene. What would you like to see this AI create for this scene? Border crossing issues. Oof, that's a tough one. A store inside the space shuttle. All right, kind of like that. Snowboarding downhill with a cat in their arms. Let's go for the space shuttle. We're going to inside the space shuttle. So we're going to say inside the space shuttle. So we click on generate. Takes anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds to generate an image. That is creating a 6K full 360-degree image inside of here. So it's creating quite a lot of content inside of there. Again, probably something more wordy, more specific would have been better. The same prompting rules that happen here, and this is the space shuttle, I guess, as it's landing. We didn't say where it was in space. So we're going to go ahead and create that. And realtor showing buying around could show just about anything, and then you can create your scene inside of there. So there we are. Looks like we're landing. We're coming in on that shuttle as we go above the clouds. You can then take that and annotate it with objects, hotspots, questions, info cards. You can make a full immersive scene. You can take this and publish it out to the web, to VR goggles, to mobile devices as well. So lots of ways to publish it. Just an interesting way to publish new learning. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're running low on time, so I'm going to skip a few of these things, and let's go ahead and take a look at generating course content in Lectora. So we're going to go back to that studio, and that's right here. So in the studio, we have a link for Lectora. One of the new things about Lectora, when you go in, when you create a new project, you have lots of ways to create it, all the standard ways. You now have the AI course wizard. So we can create a course on just about anything. So I'm going to head and create a course on OSHA safety for office employees. All right. And I'm going to do that. And you can give a number of pages, anywhere from 1 to 15 pages in there. You can select a theme and set that theme in there. We're going to use the standard theme, and we're going to click on generate. Again, about a minute or so to generate this. As it goes through, it's going to actually create the full template. It's going to create pages in there. It's going to name the pages with subject items, and it's going to create the content on those pages. It'll give you an image placeholder, so you'll be able to create that image on there. Oh, and no, let's try it again. So we're going to generate that again. And one more time. It gave a different response than it was expecting, and so it's going to give it a shot to generate again. So again, going through and creating it, in this case, we do that for 10 pages, and it's going to create a 10-page course based upon that. So it's just a simple way to get you started. Now, maybe you need to create a much larger course. Maybe you need to create additional pages on there. Those are all things you can do, but it will go through and create the course. It'll give you an introduction. It'll say understanding OSHA, common hazards in the office, ergonomics, talk about it, right? So fantastic. Maybe this is what you want. Even gives you a conclusion page, gives you a space to put an image. You can go to our stock image library and pull in, any amount of images you can imagine inside of there. But what if you had another page? You know what? Oh, I forgot. There was one more page I was supposed to put in. What are the, worst, the most hazards that you'll see in there? You can actually go through AI and add in another page, and it'll add in another page. And you can add pages one at a time, and the AI will generate that page for you. Again, giving a page name, put it in. You just have to describe what you want to see, and it'll add that content in for you. So fantastic way to use that. We had just a couple more things, trying to leave a little time for question here. So we're going to look at a few ways you can use AI in your content itself. And so I'm going to go ahead and, in this case, bring up Lectora. And so inside of here, the first one we're going to look to is grading responses. So this is a common one that we all run into when you have a lengthy answer to a question, and there's really no way to grade it, right? It's when you have an open-ended question, you can't give it, you can't, compare it against things. Maybe you can do if you get it crazy with a little JavaScript, maybe you can do a keyword search or something like that. But how do you grade something like this? You receive a complaint email from a customer about a problem they're having with a trial version of your software. The customer's email really doesn't provide enough information for you to act upon, and you're asking the user to draft a one-paragraph response. This is something that everyone has to do if you're dealing with customers. So I'm going to publish this out, and I'm going to go ahead and preview this in Chrome. And how do I respond to this? So, okay, so what if your user said something like this, and this may be true for your company. What if they said it's only a trial version and there's no support for trial versions? It may actually be true, but is that a good response? So you send that into AI. AI gave it a 4. So we get a 4 out of 10 on that, right? It is important to mention that it's there, but really, it's dismissive, it's unhelpful, it's not really that good. So let's try to give it, I wrote a better response. Let's see how I do on my better response. I wrote in here, I'm sorry to hear that you're having issues with our software. If you could provide a bit more information, I'd be happy to help you solve the issue. Okay, great. Let's see how AI is still going to grade me wrong, bad. I got a 7, not bad. Could have done better though. And so it gave you a revised response. It told you how you could have done better. So how do we go about doing that in a course like this? Well, first you create the page, and then you add in a little bit of JavaScript. We'll just need a little bit of JavaScript in there, and that's our AI code, and we're going to call the AI on that. So we go about that by calling GPT. The one nice thing about Lectora is everything is JavaScript enabled, so you can get information and set information on there like we did. This field is entry 1. We get the value of that. If we didn't put enough information in there, we tell it no. And then we just send that prompt over. And we tell that prompt, we say, the assistant, in this case, that's assistant, is a experienced customer service representative who's providing feedback on a student's response to a customer interaction. The assistant should grade the user response on a scale of 1 to 10, and then provide a better response if that is needed. So we've asked it to grade on a scale of 1 to 10, and we asked it to provide a better response if it's needed. And then we say the student is prompted with the following. The student was prompted with this, and then the student's response is, and we've put in what the student's response is. So we sent all of that information over to the AI, and then we called AI to do it. We called ChatGPT in this case.
So John, I know you're on a roll. I am watching our time.
I know.
So
yeah,
I
this
think
is the end. I know I left no room for questions. So
well, I've got one question that I think I definitely think you'll have time to weigh in. So let's wrap this one up, and then we'll do that, and we'll finish up.
Right. So how did I know? Okay, that's great. You think, okay, that's cool, but how am I supposed to, be able to write JavaScript like that? I don't know JavaScript. The thing is, you can just ask AI how to write it, which I did in that case. And I used what it told me to do. I said, I want to make an open API call using JavaScript. And then it told me how to do it. And it went through and I had it refine it because the first time I put it in there, it didn't work, and it refined it. So no problem. So I actually got that information from AI. So, all right. On that note, Matt, I send it back to you.
All right. So as we wrap up, and I appreciate, John, first of all, thank you for your expertise and your passion and the energy around it. I won't venture to speak for everyone, but I can tell you from my own perspective, I learned a lot, and I see more and more the usefulness of AI as a tool in the work that we do. The one question that I do think we should address as we're wrapping up here is the question of copyright and ethical considerations of, if we're using content that was generated by AI, should it be marked as such? What's your take on that?
So yeah, that is something that is in high debate everywhere. You see both sides of that. I think where it comes down to is things like images, which are, as long as you have not asked for the style of a different artist, that image is fine to use. It is completely generated. Sometimes it's a bit wonky, but it's generated. If you ask in the style of another artist, I think that's where you might run into some issue. For content generated, the content generated is generally produced from what it learned from the internet. So as long as you cite that it's in there, much like you would cite that you got it from an internet site, you can actually ask AI to cite its references. It will cite the websites that it got it from. You'll get that from it. So I think it is fine to use in just about any area, but like anything, you should cite it where it is citable.
Well, that is our time for today. Folks, thank you again for your time. John, thank you for being here with your expertise. As a reminder, we will be sending out a follow-up email in a little while, usually within a couple of hours, with a link to the recording of today's session, along with a copy of the slides that were covered. If we will also, I will take some time and go back through questions. If there's any other questions that we did not get to, most everything that came up, though, I think you got addressed organically. So we should have hit on everything. But if there's anything else, we'll definitely email those over to John and get responses from him and share those with you as well. Have a great rest of your day. John, thank you again. And we'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye, everyone.